Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you need a shortcut to fluency in the topics that matter most, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we are doing a complete overhaul of how you communicate. This is a deep dive focused entirely on mastering, all those interactions, everything from high-stakes public speaking.
Which is terrifying for most people.
Exactly, to those spontaneous one-on-one conversations that can really make or break your career or even your relationships.
Right. And that's our mission here. We're trying to bypass all the fluffy advice and actually extract concrete tools. The goal is to figure out how to foster a genuine connection and, I think more importantly, how to systematically reduce that anxiety that just sabotages so many people.
And before we even get into techniques, we have to talk about that core tension. Why is public speaking so terrifying? I mean, for almost everyone. It's not just about forgetting your lines, right?
Not at all. And the sources we looked at have a fascinating take on this. It's deeply rooted in our evolutionary past.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Well, you have to think about early human groups. They were small. And your status inside that group was, it was everything. It meant access to food, to protection.
To survival.
Literally survival. So if you stood up in front of everyone and you were judged poorly, if you said something stupid or were shamed, that was a life-threatening risk. It could mean being kicked out of the tribe.
Wow. So that feeling, the sweaty palms, the mind going blank, that's just an echo of the fear of being exiled.
It is. It's an ancient fear.
That is a powerful way to frame it.
Right.
Okay, knowing that, let's unpack the first big cognitive trap, the one that I think locks most of us up. And that is just memorization. Why is that such terrible advice?
Oh, it's the absolute #1 mistake. Please never, ever memorize your speech.
But it feels safer, right? Like a safety net.
It feels safer, but what you're actually doing is creating this immense cognitive burden. Your brain is suddenly forced to do two things at once.
Okay, what are the two things?
Well, one part of your brain is running this perfect playback loop of the speech you rehearsed in your bedroom. And the other part is trying to monitor what's actually coming out of your mouth.
And you're constantly comparing the two.
Exactly. And that comparison, that internal judgment, it just eats up all the cognitive bandwidth you should be using to connect with the audience and make your message clear. You're grading yourself in real time instead of just talking to people.
So you're trapped in your own head.
Completely. The alternative is simple. Use note cards. Use an outline. It's okay to look down.
Right.
I would much rather see you pause, look at a note card to get a specific statistic right, and then look back up, than to watch someone suffer trying to recall some perfectly crafted sentence from memory.
So if we're throwing out memorization, what do we replace it with to actually connect? This gets us to that word that's thrown around all the time, authenticity. What does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah, it's not just a fuzzy feeling, it's an active practice. It means you have to do the work to understand what is genuinely important to you, what your core beliefs are, and then you have to articulate that value clearly to your audience.
So it's about being true to your own values and then sharing them.
That's it. And that connects directly to credibility, how you earn the right to speak.
Right, because we tend to think our credibility just comes from, our resume or our LinkedIn profile, what you call career and college credibility.
And you should not lead with that. I am on a mission to get people to stop starting presentations by listing their job titles. We already know that stuff.
So what's the alternative?
You need to earn what I call Costco credibility.
Okay, I like that. What is it?
It's just like getting a free sample at the store. You're earning credibility in the moment by demonstrating immediate value.
So instead of a resume rundown, you hook them right away.
Right. Think about it. An action movie doesn't start with a long text scroll of the director's filmography. It starts with a car chase. Do the same thing. Start with a provocative statement, a question, a surprising statistic that shows them why this matters to them right now.
Okay, let's unpack this a little. So you've done your research, you know what the audience needs. How do you structure the message so they can actually remember it? Because our brains are, I found this fascinating, they're terrible at remembering just lists.
You're awful at it. If you just give people a bunch of bullet points, they'll forget them instantly. Structure is what creates the pathway our brains need. It turns a list into a narrative.
Are there any good go-to structures?
Oh, yeah. You see them everywhere. A TV ad is almost always problem, solution, benefit. For a professional talk, a really good one is what, so what, now what?
What, so what, now what? Okay.
Yeah. Here's the information, the what. Here's why it matters to you, the so what. And here's what we're going to do about it, the now what. It's a clear path.
That makes a ton of sense for a formal talk, but how do we apply these ideas to, say, a tricky one-on-one conversation, especially with someone who is quiet or maybe just not a great communicator.
The black belt tip here is surprisingly simple. You lead with genuine curiosity, you ask questions, and then, this is the key part, you give them space to answer.
Don't just jump in to fill the silence.
Exactly. There's this great anecdote about a mother-in-law who had a, quote, black belt in small talk. And her secret weapon was just 3 words.
Which were?
Tell me more.
That's it.
That's it. When you lead with curiosity and just prompt people to elaborate, they feel heard. You draw them out. It shows you're actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
That is so simple but so powerful. And it works everywhere, right? Networking, meetings, even a tough conversation.
Everywhere. Now, speaking of tricky situations, let's talk about training for spontaneity.
Yeah.
How do you build that agility and disrupt that inner critic we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, that self-judgment is the enemy. So what are the tools for that? I saw something in the material about relabeling objects. Sounds a little strange.
It does sound strange, but it's a fantastic exercise from improv. It's called the object relabeling exercise.
Okay, how does it work?
It's simple. You just point at an object and call it something it is not. Point at that microphone and call it a car. Point at the floor and call it a calculator. You do it for like 15 seconds.
And the point of this is?
It forces you out of your normal, logical, judgmental brain. It breaks those mental shortcuts, the heuristics that lock you up when you need to think on your feet. You realize your brain is trying to find a logical link and you have to fight it. That struggle builds agility.
And the other tool was more direct improv drills.
Yeah, just pick a random word or object and talk about it for 30 seconds straight.
Yeah.
The repetition builds confidence for those moments when you're put on the spot.
Okay, let's shift to the physical side of things. Delivery, pacing, movement. How does that affect communication?
Well, movement is a huge tool for getting rid of anxiety. You know, that nervous energy, that autonomic arousal. Pacing or using your hands helps channel it, but it has to be purposeful.
Not just random, distracting pacing.
Right. And what's fascinating here is the rule about timing. It's the punchline rule.
Punchline rule.
Yeah. When you are delivering your most critical point, the punchline, you have to stand still. Let it land.
And you use movement during the transitions between ideas.
Exactly. It creates rhythm. The sources use this great analogy of Lego manuals. The designers actually vary the difficulty of the steps. Some are easy, some are hard, to build emotion and keep you engaged. You need that same rhythm in your speaking.
Let's tackle the biggest distraction for a lot of people. The ums and likes. What's a simple tool for that?
First, we have to know that filler words aren't actually evil. You know, they signal that you're thinking, but you're not done yet. But when you overuse them, they become a problem.
So what's the fix?
The best tool is something called landing phrases.
Okay.
You train yourself to speak until you are completely out of breath at the end of a sentence or a phrase.
You keep going.
You keep going. Because you physically cannot say, while you are inhaling, so it forces a natural pause while you take a breath. It slows you down and builds in those powerful, composed pauses.
I like that. Okay, the emergency scenario. What if you're in a high-stakes moment and you just blank out?
The big one. Okay, first, prevention. Stop pre-apologizing. Never start a talk by saying, oh, I didn't sleep well, or I'm a little nervous.
Because you're just priming the audience to look for mistakes.
You're telling them what to look for. And second, you have to rationalize the fear. Blanking out is not as common or as catastrophic as you think. It happens.
But when it does happen, what's the recovery plan?
You have 2 main options to buy yourself time. First, retrace your steps. Just repeat the last sentence you remember saying. That often jogs your memory.
And if that doesn't work?
You distract the audience. The best way is to ask a question. Say something like, I just want to pause for a moment here. How can what we've just discussed be applied in your world? It buys you a solid 10, maybe 15 seconds to find your place.
That's a great tip. And any final quick delivery tips?
Yeah, 2 quick ones. Focus on your exhale. Make it longer than your inhale. It literally slows your heart rate down and drops your voice to its natural lower pitch.
Which sounds more authoritative.
Right. And the second one is warm up. Don't go from total silence to giving a brilliant speech. Have a normal conversation with someone beforehand, even just small talk. It's a vocal and a mental warm-up.
So to pull all this together for you, mastery here isn't a talent. It's a skill. And it comes from 3 things.
Repetition, reflection, and feedback. You have to practice out loud, you have to reflect on how you did, and you need to get feedback from people you trust. I would even recommend keeping a little journal, a communication reflection journal, just a minute a day. What went well, what didn't.
And I love this final mindset shift. Adopt the tour guide mindset.
Yes, as the speaker, you're the guide. It's your job to set expectations, tell the audience where you're going, guide them clearly, and make sure they leave with something valuable, a little gift. You can't assume they know the map that's in your head.
And sometimes being a good guide means being quiet. The sources mention the power of people who are quiet but not shy.
Exactly. They're comfortable with silence. They only speak when they have something really important to add. It's not always about being the loudest person in the room.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. In a world that is just saturated with noise, with this expectation of constant extroverted performance, what knowledge are we missing? What are we failing to learn because we don't value the strategic composure of the quiet, deliberate communicator? Maybe the greatest communication skill we can all learn is mastering the art of knowing when not to speak. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into communication. We'll see you next time.